Welcome to Hannity. And tonight, Charlie Kirk's friend and mentor, Frank Turek, is speaking out about what happened in the car in the immediate aftermath of the shooting and the moment that he knew that Charlie had passed on and was with Jesus. Take a look.
Charlie Kirk was literally like a son to me. I have 3 sons. He was like my 4th son. My 3 sons are a little bit older than Charlie. He was like my 4th son. So when he was hit, if your son got hit, what would you do? What would you do? I got in the car. Because if there was any way I could save him, I had to do something.
Frank will join us and tell us the entire story. That's coming up in just a moment. Plus, Biden's former chief of staff, Jeff Zients, was grilled by lawmakers on Capitol Hill today as part of the Biden cover-up probe. He revealed a lot tonight, critical new information coming up with the House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer. He will explain all. But first tonight, it is official. Jimmy Kimmel's show has been suspended indefinitely following vile comments about Charlie Kirk's assassination, including this one portraying the suspect in Charlie Kirk's assassination as MAGA, which everybody knew at the time was false. Take a look.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
Now, the decision last night was made by ABC, the same ABC, remember, that fired the top-rated Roseanne Barr over a tweet, and popular top-rated radio host Bob Grant for a comment that he made on the air after the death of Ron Brown, former Commerce Secretary. But after spending years pushing cancel culture, the left's hypocrisy was on full display over Kimmel's suspension as they predictably and immediately went into full-blown meltdown mode. Take a look.
Congressman, I see you are wearing a hat. What does that hat say?
You're damn right I am, John. I was a guest on the Jimmy Kimmel show. He, every night, has a right to come into any house that wants to watch and entertain Americans. It should shake every American that the President of the United States is out there firing comedians who make fun of him. That is not who we are, and every American should care and stand up to this.
It is outrageous. It's a page right out of Xi's playbook. This is just despicable, disgusting, and against democratic values.
I mean, understand, if we go down this road, and it seems like this is where we are destroying the freedom of expression in America.
I've also read a whole lot about authoritarian regimes. This is the playbook, folks. If you're not paying attention now and doing something about it, well, then you're going to have to sit down the rest of your life because democracy is being taken away.
Yeah, we have everybody from Jen Psaki to Tim Walz to AOC to Kamala Harris, and the list goes on and on. Oh, they're saying the exact same thing they're now condemning. Former President Obama decided to weigh in on X, saying, quote, after years of complaining about cancel culture, the current administration has taken it to a new and dangerous level by routinely threatening regulatory action against media companies unless they muzzle or fire reporters and commentators they don't like. We'll explain the truth in a second. What makes that so interesting, according to Roseanne Barr, it was Barack and Michelle Obama who called CEO of Disney, ABC, Bob Iger, to have her fired from her hit show in 2018 over a controversial tweet she made, and her show was a massive success, unlike Kimmel's. But it wasn't just elected officials. Of course, their allies in the legacy media mob also rushing to feign their predictable moral outrage, the double standards, so fear over ABC's decision. Wait till you hear about Jimmy's ratings in a second, but take a look.
Even though we're talking about comedy, this is so serious, Aaron. Yeah. America is a less free place if late-night comedians cannot do and say what they want.
This is just the latest chapter in Donald Trump's ongoing campaign to crack down on free speech, dominate the media, and essentially render the First Amendment meaningless.
The suppression of Democratic Party speech is coming next.
That is a message to every other broadcaster on every other medium in this country that if you say something the leader doesn't like, you're probably at risk of getting axed.
They are looking for reasons to get Jimmy Kimmel, and they manufactured one out of something that is you know, hardly a dramatic departure from what lots of people are saying.
You can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office.
Now, the Screen Actors Guild also spoke out condemning the suspension of Kimmel's show. Kind of funny, because I don't remember this outrage from them when Gina Carano was fired from the hit show Mandalorian over her conservative views and social media posting. Now, maybe worse, though, of all was, well, Rosie O'Donnell, somewhere in Ireland, who took to Instagram and said, quote, F this fascist administration and corrupt corporate executives, before adding that, quote, America is no more. Now that we have shown you, and this is only a sampling, and we're gonna have by the end of the show, hopefully, we just came out, all the clips we have about Tim Walz and AOC and Kamala Harris and prominent Democrats, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, all saying the very thing that they're accusing conservatives are, which isn't even true. But we've shown you the collective meltdown. Let's talk about what actually happened here. For starters, if Jimmy Kimmel had had a massive audience, if he were successful, he probably would not be in the position he's in right now. But his show was failing, and failing spectacularly. At one point, he had pretty good ratings, ran it straight into the ground. He has lost almost a total of 1 million viewers from just 10 years ago. Look at this number. He lost a whopping 72% of younger viewers aged 25 to 54. In other words, losing pretty much 3 out of 4 viewers in that very key category, his, quote, target audience. So when ratings go that low and you lose 72% of your target audience, guess what else dries up right after that? It's called revenue. Revenue that ABC Disney were hoping they could rely on and count on, and his vile comments this week were just the straw that broke the camel's back. And groups that own these ABC stations, they were fed up. You know, everyone's outraged over the fact that Jimmy Kimmel, his show is on indefinite suspension. Did any of those people that are so outraged over this, did they express the same outrage, most of them, about the murder of a husband and father of 2 young children? Just something to ponder. You know, where's your moral compass, your North Star, if you will? Anyway, with Next Star Television and Sinclair Broadcasting leading the charge, announcing they were pulling the failing show off their channels indefinitely, in the end, it was ABC, Bob Iger, he's in charge, who made the decision to pull the show off the air indefinitely. And as Dave Portnoy pointed out, for those on the left that are screaming about this being part of cancel culture, it is not. No one was looking for dirt on Jimmy Kimmel to get him fired. Instead, he was suspended by ABC as a consequence for his callous actions. Over the years, there have been attempts, for example, get yours truly fired, to get this show boycotted, to get Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, other conservatives off the air. Not one prominent conservative voice in the country was out there leading the charge with money, you know, fed to groups like Media Matters, giving out lists of my advertisers for Jimmy to be fired. They're simply, you know, they simply never watched the show. You know, conservatives knew where he was coming from. They didn't want to watch. And he alienated half the audience. According to a new report, Kimmel had no plans to make an apology. In fact, according to this report, he actually planned to double down on his MAGA attacks. And now there are still plenty of platforms. Good news for Jimmy Kimmel, for him to go on and to spew his hatred of Donald Trump and conservatives. It just won't be on a broadcast network, which in recent years has become a complete disgrace anyways. And Jimmy, you lost 72% of your key demo. What happened to comedy shows? This is where nobody wants to talk about this little part. Nowadays, these late night shows are more akin to something you'd see on fake news CNN, and they're not doing particularly well, or MSDNC. They have all long abandoned the mission to be a late night comedy show. They simply are no longer funny. Trump derangement syndrome became all that would drive these shows. We all know what happened to Colbert. His show is one that is overly political, anti-Trump, one anti-Trump tirade after another, now with a small audience and no revenue, and they're actually losing, according to CBS, $40 million a year. They decided it's not worth it. It's coming to an end. Today's late-night comedians could have learned a thing or two from the king of late night himself, Johnny Carson. Look what he told Mike Wallace on 60 Minutes about why he doesn't talk about controversial issues or politics. Take a look.
But you're not. Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should.
Or maybe they should have listened to Jay Leno, who, by the way, made a career poking fun at both sides. Very successful career. Here's what he said after the firing of Colbert.
I like to think that people come to a comedy show to kind of get away from the things, you know, the pressures of life, wherever it might be. And I love political humor, don't get me wrong, but it's just what happens is people wind up cozying too much to one side or the other. Why shoot for just half an audience all the time? You know, why not try to get the whole? I mean, I like to bring people into the big picture. I don't understand why you would alienate one particular group, you know, or just don't do it at all. I'm not saying you have to throw your support or whatever, but just do what's funny.
Do what's funny on a late night comedy show. Well, that's a novel thought. You know, if you want to be a liberal commentator, go work for fake news CNN, MSDNC. But there's another aspect at play here, because broadcast networks also have licenses granted by the FCC. And as Brendan Carr explained on this show last night, that comes with an obligation to act in the public interest. Clearly, with a plethora of evidence available, purposely not telling the truth about the suspected Charlie Kirk assassin, not exactly acting in the public interest. These hosts did it to themselves. They have failed miserably, and they had years to adjust. They had years to adapt. They had years to reflect on their declining audiences. They had plenty of opportunities. They could have made adjustments. They could have made changes to their show. They could have, you know, read the room, if you will. They've been completely blinded to what their programs were supposed to be about. That's comedy. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.